We've got the perfect storm in this district to put the first Libertarian in Congress. The catch is, once we do it, everybody sees it's possible. That's what's holding us back right now, is people just don't think it's possible. People don't think it's realistic. Minnesota is the state that put Jesse Ventura, a third-party candidate, in the governor's mansion. Damn it, we'll do it. Okay? Okay, we've done it before.
Can I pause for a second and just note that we got Brian on here who's getting Congressman Massey on, and our typical lineup includes like homeless people that believe in Bigfoot.
Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show, your source for common sense politics on the We Are Libertarians network. The Brian Nichols Show is the fastest growing liberty podcast that brings together people from all means of political thought as we seek to have meaningful conversations about the issues you care about. At the Brian Nichols Show, our goal is to leave the audience educated, enlightened, and informed. And now your host, Brian Nichols.
Well, happy Sunday, folks. Brian Nichols here on the Brian Nichols Show. I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I guess, because it actually happened. I got a candidate on my show between Friday and Sunday. So, number one, thank you to everybody who reached out, but special shout-out to Travis Bull Johnson, who is today's number one. He's our guest today, but also he's our candidate today on today's episode of the Sunday Candidate Highlight Series here on the Brian Nichols Show. Travis reached out and he said, Brian, I'd be more than happy to come on the program. And yes, he is running for Congress up in Minnesota's 7th congressional district. So it's a great opportunity to learn more, not just about libertarian perspective running for Congress on a federal level, but specifically looking at some issues that he can actually have some influence on, like helping support Thomas Massey's Prime Act and looking at how right now a not decentralized and more focused in a centralized approach that the meat packing industry and the meat processing industries have really ended up harming the overall American electorate, the American consumer, that is, and more. So it's a great conversation with Travis here on today's special episode of the Sunday Candidate Highlight Series. So that being said, on to the show, Travis Bull Johnson here on the Brian Nichols Show.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Absolutely. Travis, thank you for joining the program. And as always, thank you for doing your part. And that is running for office, not just on liberty ideals, but with the big L, Libertarian, next to your name. So first and foremost, thank you for that. And welcome to the program. And Travis, we were talking, beforehand. You are my knight in shining armor because I had lost a couple of my candidates I had lined up here as I'm getting shows lined up for the week. And I didn't have a candidate for my Sunday Candidate Highlight Series. You came in clutch. So thank you for that as well. So let's do this, Travis. Introduce yourself to the audience. I hinted you're running for Congress up there in the 7th district in Minnesota. But who are you? What got you on your path to liberty? And what inspired you to run for Congress as a libertarian of all things?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. Again, my name is Travis the Bull Johnson. I'm up here in the Minnesota 7th district, which is the the western portion of Minnesota. I'm a 20-year Army vet, retired in 2018. When I came up here, we started setting up our property for a farm. We got a 40-acre tract, and when I went to start getting building permits to build my barn, found out there was a 150-foot set aside from the dirt road that I couldn't put my barn on, and to me it just didn't make sense. So went and talked to the county commission. Hey guys, give me a reason. Tell me one good reason why you need to set aside that 150 feet between the set aside and the right of way, and I'll be on my way. They couldn't do it. They basically just said, well, one day we might want to expand that road. It's a freaking dirt road. Were you going to make it a 4-lane all of a sudden? It just didn't make sense. So at that point, I ran for a county commissioner. I said, screw it. There's other ways to change this, but I'm going to try to change it by becoming part of the organization. Ran against a local guy, learned a real hard lesson in politics. When you're in a small pond, you don't go against the big fish as a newcomer. I mean, I still think we did relatively well. We took over 30% of the vote in an environment you could not campaign with traditionally because of COVID. When I lost that election in November, it's like, you know what? I think I'm done. Okay, you know, I gave it my shot. During that same election, Michelle Fischbach defeated Colin Peterson, who was a 15-term incumbent for Minnesota 7.
Wow.
And you know what? Colin wasn't a bad guy for our area. I mean, he was chairman of the ag committee. This is a primarily rural ag district. Problem is he had a D in back of his name, and so does our governor. And our governor was very big on mask mandates and shutting down restaurants and everything due to COVID. And he had a one-size-fits-all mentality. What was good for the city was good for the rest of the state. It didn't go over real well. I mean, let me give you an idea of what this guy did. I mean, he did a little spiel to some Democrats and to like a fundraiser, and he puts a picture of Minnesota up, and around the Twin Cities is blue. The entire rest of the city is red, and he puts his hand, and he starts spraying it over the red area. He says, "Everybody's all upset about all this red on this map. I don't see why. There's nothing but rocks and cows out there."
Well, there's your problem.
Okay, yeah. That now just galvanized this whole area of the state going, hey, no, it's not going to work. Between the two parties, they put in, I want to say, $13 million into this campaign, 12 million of which was attack ads. I mean, they spent 12 or 13 to 1 on why you should vote against this guy rather than why you should vote for ours. That turned me off. I mean, the fact that the Michelle Fischbach, the person who they ran and won, was also a established politician. It was everything these people didn't like, but that's who got shoved down their throats because Tom Emmers and Kevin McCarthy, DC and Minneapolis in Minnesota Swamp Monsters establishment decided that's who was best for Western Minnesota. They had some issues with the primaries on the Republican side with endorsements. There was a lot of funky stuff going on, and everybody's like, "Yeah, we want to get rid of Colin because he's got that D. This is our only option. Let's go with it." So she won. But to give you an idea, we spoke a little bit earlier. President Trump took 65% of this district. Michelle Fischbach, his endorsed chosen candidate, only took 53%. There's a big gap there of people who weren't happy with her running.
Yeah, that's huge.
She just doesn't represent. She's a lawyer who's never done anything besides politics. She doesn't represent Western rural Minnesota. I mean, she doesn't understand us. I mean, I went to one of her rallies or one of the areas where she spoke, and she just wasn't prepared for anything that we brought up. I mean, it was always, well, I'm new at this. We're learning as we go. I mean, you've been in politics for 20 years. We asked her, hey, when are you going to open up a congressional office in the northwest portion of the state? Well, we're just now getting our feet under the ground. Lady, by the time you entered office, you should already know where your congressional offices were. Fact of the matter is, you didn't care about us. When she would come back to talk to people, she would only talk. She would either it would be a very controlled environment, or the only live events she would do was campaign stops. And most of those were in Republican GOP headquarters. They weren't open to the public. They weren't even open to the general GOP. They were open to the people who were funding her, basically. I said, no, that's BS. Okay, I mean, we need somebody up there who will stand up for us, who will be us, who will listen to us. That's from talking to people across the board. That's their complaint. I mean, some of our big grassroots organizations would call her and ask her questions. Hey, how did you vote on the Cheney situation? Did you vote to keep her or kick her out? The response her office gave, well, that was a private vote. We don't have to tell you. That's what they're telling the grassroots Republicans here. Okay, that's what they're telling their base. The base has finally realized, and I think it's happened on both sides now, that left wing, right wing is the same damn bird. If you want to change something, we're gonna have to send a message.
Yeah, well, really, let's go there, right? Because I think now we're starting to see across the board there has been kind of this universal just complete rejection of this mentality of you're going along to get along. This is the way it's always been, and yet they're the status quo will not, go silently into the night. It will fight tooth and nail to remain in place. So I think the way that we can help facilitate its slow demise, that being the status quo, is to start getting people to, slowly but surely, and in some cases much faster. I look at, policy issues like school choice, become libertarians on accident in some cases, just because they didn't realize that the policies they were supporting were overtly small L libertarian policy goals. So I look at something like I mentioned school choice. We see right now school choice across the country is taking the world by storm, just because you see, number one, parents were like, I can see actually what my kids are being taught, and because we're home and I see the classroom right now on the screen and I'm horrified, and they decided that, hey, maybe I don't want to send my kid back to school. And I get that. The other one is you have some school districts, especially those school districts that are, really, I would say, taken on by those massive public unions. I'd look at cities like New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, and they didn't have kids in school pretty much the entire year. It wasn't for a matter of safety, but rather the public unions just exercising their leverage. It wasn't about keeping teachers safe. It was really about leveraging the situation to really help the teachers, get either higher pay or get, added benefits. And that's unfortunate, because it ended up being the kids that were hurting from this. And we're seeing right now an absolute revolt from parents en masse. I mean, you can't have a teacher say it's dangerous for us to go into the school, and then you find out that they're down in the Caribbean on vacation with their family without wearing masks, right at the peak of the pandemic, and that was not untypical. So I guess we're seeing right now a lot of these policy issues that are hitting people truly on issues that are mattering to them right now. So let's kind of put that right to the 7th district up there in Minnesota. What are some of the top issues that you're seeing up there, Travis? And what are the voters telling you in terms of how they want to see these issues addressed?
One of the things I'm realizing from talking to people is the people up here are libertarian. They just don't know it. I mean, the big issues they want to see addressed are, as you mentioned, freedom from schools. Put the control back on the local district instead of being dictated from DC. They want to be allowed to live their lives as long as they're not bothering or hurting somebody else. Let us do what we're going to do. Let us decide whether. Let me do my own risk assessment on if I'm going to take the vaccine or not. Let me do my own risk assessment to decide whether it's worth it to me to go to this restaurant during a supposed pandemic. Let me make those decisions. We don't want the nanny state. That's what we're fighting against. We're fighting against overall the nanny state. And I'll give you an example. One thing that's I'm personally close to, and it came up again this past week. Representative Massey introduced a couple years ago something called the Prime Act. The Prime Act would allow small livestock producers to sell their meat by the cut, even though it does not go through a USDA processed facility, which is what's required now. We can go through a custom butcher shop and then sell by the cut. Right now, we have to sell by the live animal. So myself, I raise pigs, I raise cattle. If I want to sell pork to somebody, I have to sell them either a half a pig or a full pig while it's alive, then send it to the butcher, and then they pick up their meat. I can't sell beef or pork. I can sell a live animal. The Prime Act would have allowed us to sell beef or pork rather than just as a live animal. Colin Peterson, the previous representative, I fought with his office tooth and nail over this. I mean,
and really quick, Trev, what would be the direct positive result of you being able to directly sell pork and beef versus the live animal?
One is people who don't make a lot of money can then afford to buy locally. Right now, if they have to buy a whole or a half pig, they're paying $600 or so all at once, and they have to have room for all that meat in their freezer at one time. Second, it decentralizes our food production. And I brought this up a few minutes ago, why it came up this week. JBS, the big international meat packing plant, was hacked. They had to shut down a couple production lines. That almost had an immediate impact on the perception of availability of meat. what it does for us as the local producers, it doesn't change what we're going to get for our animals if we have to sell at auction to go to these meat packing plants. But what it does do is it allows them to increase how much they're charging at the supermarkets. And it does not allow small people to make up that gap. I mean, that's what the whole free enterprise system is based on, is if this company or whatever cannot meet the needs, it allows smaller companies to come up to meet those needs and grow. Well, we're being kept out. We're being locked out of the competition. And they're using the excuse of safety, which I think is total BS. I mean,
what's the argument? Yeah, what's even the argument?
The argument is because through these big plants, they're going through USDA inspections, and on the custom plants, they're not. Well, the catch is these big plants have an assembly line. Each inspector at each station will take a look at a piece of meat 2 to 3 seconds before the next one is in front of him. My butcher is going to look at this thing for a couple of hours. Okay, if there's a problem, that butcher is going to notice it. And guess what? When it's done, guess whose sticker gets put on that piece of meat? My butcher. Okay, with my name.
Yep.
My butcher's not going to put something on his name on something that's not good quality. Okay, so I just don't buy the safety issue. I mean, they're going to look at this thing for hours, not a couple quick seconds. And as time goes, I mean, even this past year, the meat industry has lobbied Congress to even shorten that time, to quicken those assembly lines even more, so inspectors get even less time to look at it. Now, requiring the small producers to do USDA inspections, that basically adds an employee to a small butcher shop. So you may have a butcher shop with 2 or 3 employees in it. Well, now you've got 3 or 4 because you have an inspector who does nothing but look, doesn't contribute to the end product. But now you've got that added expense that you have to account for with what you charge your producers to process their meat. And again, and what it does is it's constant regulation that benefits and puts the big companies in a position where they can afford it while eliminating their competition.
Yep.
And in Western Minnesota, we have a lot of small producers. I mean, and when I called Colin Peterson about it, man, his people assumed that a custom butcher and a meat packing plant operated the same way. In that, wow. I'm seriously a heart attack. He thought that the custom butcher bought the animal from me, and then they would sell it.
And he's writing policy, and that's horrifying.
And this was his policy guy on ag, who I might add, I believe it was his brother, owned a hog farm up near the cities. I mean, a commercial confinement operation, not a small pasture operation like we have. But yeah, he did not have a clue on how these things actually worked. His solution was, well, we're going to do grants to get all these guys USDA inspected for these small producers. One, there's a year backlog. There is no incentive for them to go USDA, because what is it going to add to them? I mean, it's not going. I mean, they're already backlogged as it is. 2, why do they want to add that expense? There's no need.
Yeah, and really quick, I know a lot of my audience is millennial and Gen Z who probably have zero farming experience or any context of that. I'm from upstate New York. I grew up, a farming family, so I'm very familiar. It's a situation where your average person. Okay, here. If you were to think about a person writing law for technology, right? Like, or you hear when here you go, when you hear Mark Zuckerberg going to Congress and you hear, a 95-year-old senator asking him a question, and you're just like, what? Yeah. That question doesn't even make sense. And like Gen Z and millennials are like, why are these dinosaurs writing policy about technology? The same exact thing is true. Like, and I'm not trying to cast stones, but like Gen Z and millennials, as you're running for office, like, know that you might not know exactly how things have been done from a farming perspective, but also a lot of these feel-good regulations that were put in place under the guise of keeping people safe end up causing a lot of unintended consequences. So, look at where we are right now. To your point, Travis, you have a cyber attack. I'm in the greater telecommunication industry and cybersecurity industry for my day job. When this happened, we were like, Yeah, like it's a matter of time because cybersecurity has been going up exponentially year over year, and that's why like I've been like, hey, if people need like even like remove myself from my political world, like guys, if you need help with cybersecurity, please let me know because like this is something that's going to be impacting people across the board. So like number one, get your shit together. Number two, if you are running for office or if you are elected official or if you are in policy, like we need to start decentralizing these institutions because, and this is the dirty, rotten secret, is as we continue to get the federal government and getting its fingers in these different state and local organizations or getting its fingers more into the public or the private sector, that is, in the name of doing good, it's creating a larger domino effect. Right. So, and to kind of use an example in the telecommunications and cybersecurity world, one of the things that the companies we work with, they offer third party risk assessments. So what they're looking to see is, let's say, for your company, Travis, let's say you're, a larger company, you have, 100 employees or so, and you need to hire vendors to come in and do certain things. So maybe you have like a janitorial company that'll come in and clean your facilities every single month. Let's just say that. So when they come in, maybe they have to hook up some machines that we want to make sure those machines aren't bringing in any possible vulnerabilities onto your network. Right. So doing that third party risk assessment, that's super important. So like doing something like that is something that we can even extrapolate to, if you're looking at the federal government, they're just adding more third parties. Now you're adding more possible vulnerability endpoints. And that's something that we need to start to snip away just from a security standpoint, but also what we're seeing now.
And especially in this situation where, I mean, you've only got 3 or 4 big meat packers in the entire country.
Bingo.
When one goes down, what happens?
Yep.
Now my big complaint about this is for COVID, a lot of these meat packers went down for a few days, up to a week or more. All the prices in the grocery stores went up because supposedly meat was in a shortage. Well, guess what? Our exports of beef and pork in that time period never went down.
Didn't they go up?
Was there
went up?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. So it just we got to get out of this mentality of bigger is always better. I mean, there is no such thing as too big to fail. I think that's one of the major problems we have, or one of the major issues we have that's driving the income inequality or the wealth inequality right now, is if you don't allow your big companies to fail, the small companies can't organize and make up the slack. Okay, that's what always made America great, was the small businesses. Well, the small businesses are getting squished out, and then lifelines are getting thrown to the big companies to make sure they don't fail, which keeps the small businesses from opening and thriving. Okay,
and stifles innovation.
It's exactly. So I mean, that's what we need to get rid of. I mean, the amount of times I've heard corporate welfare on this campaign trail already tells me that the people are sick of it. Okay, I mean, it's just that's another one of our big issues, is just this. They see all these huge budgets, and who's getting them?
Yep.
The big corporations are getting this share. They're getting that share. I think 20% of most of these budgets go to the government to administer these programs. Okay, I mean, it's just the common person just doesn't see it. I mean, and what they see is our representatives don't know us. They don't understand us.
And there's no reason they should.
No, they're not us. Okay, and that's what I'm campaigning on. Is, hey, I'm one of you. I'm a common man with common sense. I'm not a political elite. I'm planning on going there for maybe a couple terms, coming back to my farm, because I retired the farm. Okay, to have my small little cows and pigs and stuff like that. Okay, I don't want to get too old to do that. Okay, living in Washington D.C., that's not my cup of tea.
You're living on the 95 corridor isn't your vision of utopia. Come on,
and my last duty station with the Army was in D.C. at the Defense Intelligence Agency, right across the street, right across the river from the Capitol. Okay, it's just it's not my favorite place to be, but we got to change. If not me, who? If not now, when?
Yep.
What I see right now is a huge opportunity here. We've got the perfect storm in this district to put the first Libertarian in Congress. The catch is, once we do it, everybody sees it's possible. That's what's holding us back right now, is people just don't think it's possible. People don't think it's realistic. Minnesota is the state that put Jesse Ventura, a third-party candidate, in the governor's mansion. Damn it, we'll do it. Okay. Okay. We've done it before. Okay. So it's what makes me feel good about my run. Okay. It's just, people are tired of these two options. And again, most of them are libertarians. They just don't realize it. I mean, they're old school Republicans. They believe in small government. They believe in more liberty. And that's what the Libertarian Party is. And it's not what the GOP is anymore. And people are waking up to that fact.
Yep.
And I'm getting support from typical GOP grassroots organizations. That's what's kind of scary. I mean, this is, and it's not as running as a libertarian leaning Republican. It is running as a big L. I'm a libertarian. I mean, okay. I mean, and that's the support I'm getting. I mean, and quite honestly, with this demographic, it's support I need.
Right.
I mean, I need to pull at least half the Trump supporters if we're going to win this election.
If half my listeners have the goofy brain that I do, no pun intended, because it reminded me when you were talking about Jesse Ventura. Yeah. There's a meme, and it's a goofy from Disney Channel, and it's him, and it's got like a squished face. He goes, "And I'll do it again," and like that's all I can think of. Like, you guys, we'll do it again, and that's exciting, because we need to have that kind of like, I don't want to say revolutionary, but that kind of like wild, like, no, like, we got to buck the status quo. Yep. And it does require, the states that maybe have that kind of that little wild instinct to them to go out and start to do it. If you have that, individualistic drive to you, I'm looking at states, especially states like Minnesota or New Hampshire, for example. I mean, goodness,
our neighboring states, right? North and South Dakota.
There you go. I mean, goodness, South Dakota is one of the only states that really stood up at the beginning of the pandemic. Yep. Kristi Noem really made a name for herself. Now, granted, she's got a lot of civil liberty things that she's not so hot on, but when she was one of the first ones standing up saying, from a government lockdown perspective, absolutely not. I mean, that's a big check in terms of you being a potential ally in the future. Now, we can disagree, like, down the road, but, like, can we build some common ground on, like, at least saying the government shouldn't universally lock people down and then deem half the people essential and half the people non-essential? Like, can we at least make that agreement?
Well, and the thing is, that's one of the things that's great about my campaign is I'm getting the support from both the left and the right. I mean, even the left, who don't agree with me on a lot of my fiscal issues, they're supporting me because I'm listening to them. And they don't think in this district, which is heavily Republican, that anybody else who gets elected will listen to them. That will take their input and weigh it out honestly and look at it. I mean, there's been cases where on my webpage, I've got people who are on the far left who doesn't support a single thing that I do politically, is the first one running to my defense on some of my posts. Because they believe in me and that I will listen to them and that they have a seat at the table. That is one of my huge selling points here is, hey, everybody's got a seat at the freaking table. I don't care if you're left, you're right, whatever. I represent all of you. I expect to hear from all of you, not just the ones who voted for me, not the ones who are now have an L behind their name who didn't have it before. I am everybody's representative. And we don't feel that from either party. It's either the Democrats and Republicans are either you're with us or you're against us. There is no middle ground. I mean, that's why they run off of fear politics. One common issue I have is with one of my main points is with veterans care. We're losing 22 vets a day. We have since 1999, 22 a day for over 20 years, and that hasn't changed. Why? Why can we not figure out why do we keep doing the same, pardon my expression, why do we keep doing the same shit over and over again, expecting a different result? Okay, that system that's in effect now isn't working.
Yep.
One of my proposals, and you know what? It is a off-the-wall freaking proposal. It is you know what? Let's take all these guys who are on active duty, all these soldiers, and rather take that money that's currently going to Medicare, let's put that in a pot for mental health insurance for life for every soldier, every sailor. Okay, they have a program called Tricare for Life that's for retirees. The programs are already in place. What you do, and with Tricare, they actually basically just act as a facilitator between for veterans for their government insurance. You do the same thing for the mental health. Okay, make it so these guys have that access from day one. Okay, we got to do something. I mean, we got to change it. I mean, just if we have to break the system to do it, then damn it, let's do it. But I'm tired of losing 22 of my brothers and sisters every day. Yet every freaking politician who runs, you look at their website and they're going to say, we're going to address veteran issues. We're going to address veterans. What do they do different? Nothing. Yeah. What have they proposed? Nothing. Let's get the ball started. Let's get the conversation started. Okay.
Yes.
Let's rather than just give mouth service, let's actually let's back the checks that our mouths are writing. Okay. Let's actually try to do something. I mean, it's just that. I'm sorry, that's a passionate subject for me. I mean, it's just, it is for Western Minnesota. Okay. And
right.
The reason it is, a good portion of America's fighting men and women come from the rural environments. What really shocked me is when I would talk to people about this, probably 80 to 90% of the people I talk to knows one of the 22, or they knew somebody who knew one of the 22. It's touching so many people.
Yep.
I mean, and we got to do something, whether it comes from ending the drug war so that we can provide them other medical possibilities, whether it's make sure they have mental health care, whether it's addressing red flag laws so they're not scared of losing their rights if they go to get help. That's one of the big things holding veterans back. They don't want to lose their rights.
Yeah.
If they admit that they've got issues they need help with. And that's what they're scared of.
So the conversation hasn't aired yet. But your episode's airing the week that I had a conversation with Wiley Gray from veteransofwar.org. And this conversation that we have on that episode is just how tough it is. I mean, for them to use plant medicine alternative therapy, and they go out of state, they go out of country to even try to use alternative forms of medicine. And yet, what's the alternative? Go wait in line at the VA for how many weeks, how many months, Travis? It's appalling to see how the people who have quite literally put their lives on the line first and foremost to protect our rights, right? Our liberties, that they get treated like this when we do see our money, especially, and this is the thing that drives me crazy, is that you do see the money just be so frivolously spent in other areas. And then when it comes back to the people who are quite literally now dying every single day, 22 a day, we got to do something different. So Travis, thank you for raising this up, and thank you for making it a central issue in your campaign. And actually right here on the YouTube, you can see here at the bottom of the screen, going across the bottom, it's bulljohnsonforcongress.us. It's one of the top issues on your website, as well as all the other issues you've raised up. So to the voters of the 7th district in the congressional district up there in Minnesota, as we wrap up here on the show, Travis, what would be your final pitch to them? Why should they make sure they go ahead and cast their vote for Travis Bull Johnson, Libertarian, when the election day comes?
Well, because you can't keep doing the same shit over and over again expecting different results. If we want to send a message to the system that you got to start listening to us, you got to start taking care of us, we have to say, if you don't, we're going to replace you with somebody, and it's just not going to be the other party. We're going to take away your ability to create the other party as an enemy, because we're going to create a third option. Just because you scare us away from them, it's not going to guarantee we're coming to you. We're going to have other options. If we could pull this off in Minnesota 7, it would not surprise me for this to expand from here. We got South and North Dakota. They're both very independently minded. We just have to be able to show them it is possible. Now, one of the things for this, I hate to beg, but if you can take a look at our website, please contribute to our campaign, because when I talk to people, when I talk to national organizations about supporting our campaign, that's one of the first questions they ask is, how is your fundraising? Are you viable? Because before we throw our support behind you, before we throw our money behind you, we want to ensure that you are a viable candidate, not somebody going after tilting windmills. And that's part of what they look at. Come join our Facebook page. The more people who like our page, the more validity it lends to our campaign. This is a snowball. It's got to get started rolling. Once it gets started rolling, nothing will stop us. But we got to get that snowball rolling down the hill.
Travis Bull Johnson, he is running for Congress in Minnesota in the 7th Congressional District. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of The Brian Nichols Show.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Alrighty, folks, that's going to wrap up our conversation today with Travis Bull Johnson. He is running for Congress out in Minnesota in the 7th Congressional District as a Libertarian. And if you want to go ahead and support his candidacy, well, number one, what you can do is share today's episode and make sure when you share it, go ahead, tag him, but also tag yours truly at B Nichols Liberty, Twitter, Facebook, Minds.com, I said a stroke, I guess, Minds.com and Parler.com. Also, folks, if you enjoyed today's episode, I would love to hear about it. So if you could, number one, head over to BrianNicholsShow.com. At the very top of the page, you'll see the review section. Click reviews and go ahead, give us a quick 5-star rating, and then tell us in the review what value you got from the episode today, or what value are you getting from the Brian Nichols Show in general. I would love to hear about it, and other folks out there would love to hear about it as well. Also, if you really enjoy the program and you want to take that next step, and what is that next step? Becoming a supporting listener. How can you do that? Head to patreon.com/The Brian Nichols Show, and you can sign up as an entry-level sales executive or an account-level executive. Either way, you will be gifted one of these awesome Don't Hurt People, Don't Take People's Stuff bumper sticker. And yes, it does definitely pique some interest, and it gives you an opportunity to join our mastermind groups where we're going to be having conversations about how to better sell liberty, how to best pique interest, what kind of questions can you ask, and all types of other fun things. Make sure you head over to the Patreon, patreon.com/The Brian Nichols Show. $5 or $10 a month will get you started off as an entry-level sales or account executive. And hey, let's just say you're like, Brian, I don't want to maybe make that hit my microphone, that long time reoccurring commitment. That's okay. Here's what you can do instead. If you want to go ahead, support the show, but also support some awesome libertarian entrepreneurs. Again, I don't know what's going on here. Entrepreneurs. There we go. I think I was going to try to say entrepreneurship. But entrepreneurs who are practicing, yes, entrepreneurship. Well, you can head over to Proud Libertarian, head to the Brian Nichols Show collection. That's right, folks. We have a Brian Nichols Show store, and you can get so many awesome items, from t-shirts to mugs to bumper stickers and more. Also, by the way, we have awesome snapbacks. And what are on these awesome new pieces of swag? Well, we have Cool Mask Bro, Don't Hurt People, Don't Take People's Stuff. We have the Alexa and Google Overthrow the Government bumper stickers, as well as t-shirts and mugs. And Question Everything, Make Conspiracy Theories Conspiracy Again, and more. So if you want to go ahead, support the program, but also look pretty awesome and definitely pique some interest with your friends, go ahead. The Proud Libertarian store, proudlibertarian.com/the Brian Nichols, the Brian Nichols Show store. There we go. And I'll include that link in the show notes. So with that being said, coming up here on Monday, I am joined by our good friend and marketing guru behind the scenes, Chris Goizetta. He is joining the program once again, and we are talking about reoccurring content. What is the value for you to go ahead and focus on implementing reoccurring content to your fans, and in this case, who folks are interested in what it is that you offer, your product, your service? How can we go ahead and use reoccurring content to make them long-time raving fans and make them actually end up marketing your service, your product, your if you're a candidate, your candidacy without you even trying. So make sure you go ahead, hit that subscribe button if you have not had the chance yet, be it over on your favorite podcast catcher, or if you're over on YouTube, hit the subscribe button to the Brian Nichols Show, hit that little notification bell, give us a thumbs up. But with that being said, it's Brian Nichols signing off here on the Brian Nichols Show for Travis Bull Johnson. We'll see you Monday.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.